More Big Ten expansion could be happening by February 2025. That's 11 months from now. I'll have the details. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. I want to thank you guys for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up on today's program, more expansion. You know it's coming. We're going to figure out when. Plus, the Big Ten tournament is underway today, and we'll have our all Big Ten team announcements and our power rankings. And I did not go chalk based on the standings. Got my own decisions. We'll see where your team falls. All right. One of our favorite topics on Locked On Big Ten is Big Ten expansion. The conference grows to 18 this summer with the addition of USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon. You know the drill. Been talking about it for a while. It's happening. But that's not all. Everyone who follows college sports knows that 18 is not going to be the final number for the Big Ten. The Big Ten will grow, and they will add more schools, and will happen sooner than later. But how soon? How about like February, in 11 months? Our audience at Locked On Big Ten is very educated on the topic of expansion. We have discussed at length how we think the ACC will blow up at some point, and it'll turn into a game of musical chairs as ACC schools will scramble and negotiate to join two super conferences, the Big Ten or the SEC. That's how it's going to go down. And as most of you know, the competitive problem with the ACC schools is that they're 2 years into a horrible 13-year media rights deal with ESPN, which pays them pennies on the dollar compared to what the other Power 3 conferences are getting, particularly the Power 2. And because of the length of the deal, those power conferences will have their current deals expire and renegotiate new deals all over again, while the ACC is still going to be stuck in that long 13-year deal. They'll be in the midst of all that. So the resetting of the market is going to take place a second time while they're stuck in the ACC and their old deal, making nothing, relatively speaking. And it will cause the ACC to fall further behind in their annual media rights deal. It's so bad that lawyer types from ACC schools, they're combing through every line of what is said to be an airtight contract to try and get out of this deal. Now, Florida State has been very vocal about it, right? Their president, he's publicly said he wants out of this deal. He wants a plan in place. He wants out of this deal, wants out of the ACC. They're already suing the ACC and ESPN, saying that their conference put them in a bad sub-market deal. Florida State is interesting because they would arguably be one of the most valuable schools should they successfully and legally get out of their deal and jump out of the ACC. Now, I've wondered why other schools like Clemson have been so quiet publicly about this, as they'd be a pretty desirable asset as well, just based on football. But I've recently heard that they're getting their ducks in a row, too, for some legal action. And they want out, and none of them can afford to stay in this deal. There's schools like in North Carolina. I don't know if I haven't heard if they're putting a legal team together or if they're just waiting to see the fallout from Florida State or Clemson and then just follow whatever the legal path allows at that point. Now, up till now, ESPN hasn't budged or shown that they're interested in letting anybody out of this deal. And why would they? It's a great deal for them. Plus, they needed the extra programming all along. Remember, they've lost the Big Ten, and they don't have the SEC kick in fully until the upcoming 2024 season, which we're about to start. But what about after that? Many don't realize that ESPN, listen here, ESPN, they can void their side of that 13-year deal as of February 2025. You heard right. I didn't learn this until recently. Nobody's talking about it. Like 11 months from now, ESPN can void the rest of that 13-year deal with the ACC. They can renegotiate it. They can do something. They can do a lot of things, but they can void it and get out. And if they do that, that would get the ACC off the hook from their bad deal. Now, any void of this deal would not take place until the last 9 years of the deal. So this would be the earliest anybody could do anything would be the 2027 season. But the decision has to be made in February of 2025 by ESPN. And while a lot of teams may, they'll have to wait till 2027 if they were going to switch conferences. Decisions don't have to wait till then. Decisions can be made as soon as February. It's like, oh, we're out of this deal. We're out of here. All right. Starting in 2027, we're going to be in the Big Ten. Starting in 2027, we're going to start playing football in the SEC. That's what's going to happen. A lot of decision-making can take place as soon as February. And again, nobody's been talking about this end of this contract, this media rights deal. But why would ESPN even consider doing that? I mean, they've got a great deal, right? They don't have to pay as much to these schools. They've got programming, they've got product, and they've got them by the shirt. Well, as we mentioned, they also have the SEC rights moving forward, and that's a more valuable property. And they also just agreed to pay almost $8 billion with a B for a 6-year deal to have the exclusive broadcast rights to the entire newly expanded 12-team college football playoff. 6 straight years of it, every playoff game, ESPN. $1.3 billion a year to do that. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of product. It's a lot of interest in that product. So I'm thinking, if they want the SEC to be as big and powerful as possible, and if they want their multi-billion-dollar playoffs to be chock full of competitive talent and own as many great storylines as possible, maybe they let their lesser product, the ACC, get cannibalized by the SEC. And maybe that broadcast deal. Put this over here. Maybe. Because as soon as ESPN would void that deal during their window to do so in February, the ACC would just blow up. There'd be a mad scramble to get out. And teams would want to realign and conferences would expand and so on and so forth. And the Big Ten would be right there, waiting to cherry pick. The Big Ten, it'd be interesting to see what teams they would go after. We've discussed this at length here on this podcast. I think they'd want one of the Florida schools. Tallahassee's the better football program, but maybe the Miami market is more desirable. Maybe. Teams like North Carolina and Virginia could go to the Big Ten, although the SEC might want to fight for some presence in North Carolina and fight the Big Ten. It could be a little bidding war for North Carolina. That'd be an interesting one, but anything would be possible at that point. Maybe a little bidding war back and forth. Regardless of who goes where, this would ultimately, here's a sidebar, force Notre Dame to find a home, right? They have the loose affiliation with the ACC. If the ACC blows up, finally it would force Notre Dame to pick a side, go to a conference. No more independence with a few ACC games. ACC is going to be toast. And if it still exists, it'll be weaker. Maybe they'll add some Conference USA teams. Maybe, I don't know, they'll add some Big East teams. I don't know. Does Notre Dame want to be there? I don't think so. So one of two things are going to happen here. One, a school like Florida State or Clemson is going to win their lawsuit against the conference and against ESPN. And every ACC school is free to jump ship and find a better deal or a better conference. Or ESPN cancels the rest of that 13-year deal, knowing that they sacrifice one mediocre product, the ACC, and then they strengthen the other two products, the SEC and the college football playoffs. Possibly. Or they can renegotiate some kind of deal to try to keep it together. A lot of things are possible here. But I'm thinking forward and see, I've always thought the ACC would blow up and the Big Ten could pick up some scraps there. Surely not every ACC team would go to the SEC, and some will go to the Big Ten. Some might not go to either the Big Ten or the SEC. Might not want everybody in the ACC, and they would have to go. I don't know. Do they go to the Big 12? Do they go to a lesser conference? That all remains to be seen. But that's how it's going to go down. But I think the Big Ten could sit back and cherry pick at that point the ACC teams that it wants. And we'll expand again. It will happen. And I think it will happen that way. Or even sooner, if Florida State should win its lawsuits. We'll see. Sooner expected. Nobody knows any idea what kind of timeline that will be. Bottom line, expansion's not done. It's not even close. It's going to happen sooner than later. And that sooner could be February, less than 1 year from now. Any thoughts by you? Would love to hear from you. You can hit us up on Twitter or X at Talk Big 10, talkbig10, 10.com, our website, and comments on YouTube as well. Hey, if you like this podcast, feel free to subscribe, and it's free. It's one click, no other information required. And you can follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it's available each and every day. Men's basketball tournament is starting. We're not done. We're not done, by the way. Men's basketball tournament starting tonight. I'm going to tell you why I think this week's Iowa-Ohio State game has a lot of intrigue, to me anyway. That's all coming up right here as we continue with another edition of Locked On Big Ten. Stay with us. That's in 1 minute. Passion, drive, and patience. That's what brings home the winning trophy. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, all like exhaust kits, LED headlights, anything you can think of, whether you're into speed, power, style, looking cool, whatever, looking cool in your ride. eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at all the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Of course, that's ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. If that's you, especially you everydayers out there. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe and, of course, follow and share Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website, talkbig10, 10.com. All right, all the Big Ten men's basketball first team has been announced. All men's basketball team, first team. There was only one difference between the coaches poll and the media. So I'll tell you what, everything here is the coaches, and it's the same in the media with the exception of one. Obviously, the five are Zach Edey at Purdue, Boo Buie at Northwestern, Terrence Shannon Jr. at Illinois, Braden Smith at Purdue, and Marcus Domask at Illinois. Now, instead of Domask, Jameer Young, who I've been talking about all season long at Maryland, he's a one-man team. He made the media team. Domask only made the coaches. Everybody else made both. All right, the all-freshman team. Mackenzie Mbako at Indiana. Good story there. Slow start. Mike Woodson really had to work hard to get him to figure things out defensively. At the beginning of the year, he came in, recruited, a lot of hype, and just really couldn't keep him on the floor in the second half because he was still learning. But he's looking good now. So he's on the all-freshman team, as is Owen Freeman at Iowa, Cam Christie at Minnesota, John Blackwell at Wisconsin, and Deshaun Harris-Smith at Maryland. The all-defensive team of the Big Ten. Ace Baldwin Jr. at Penn State, Clifford Omarui at Rutgers, Zach Edey at Purdue, Chucky Hepburn at Wisconsin, and Khalil Ware from Indiana, and Brooks Barnheiser at Northwestern makes the team. Player of the year, no big spoiler alert here, Zach Edey at Purdue. Again, defensive player of the year, Ace Baldwin Jr. from Penn State. Sixth man of the year, Mason Gillis from Purdue. And they went co-coaches of the year, Fred Hoiberg at Nebraska, Matt Painter at Purdue. And they went co-freshman of the year as well, Mackenzie Mbako at Indiana and Owen Freshman at Iowa. So congratulations to all of them. The assistant coach of the year was Brandon Brantley at Purdue. And that's the list. The all Big Ten teams that came out on Tuesday. So tonight, Wednesday, we start the Big Ten tournament for men's basketball. 12 seed Maryland taking on 13 seed Rutgers. That's at 6:30 Eastern on Peacock. Also on Peacock, about 25 minutes after that game is over, 11 seed Penn State takes on 14 seed Michigan. So when Ohio State plays Iowa tomorrow on Thursday, I'm really going to be interested in the outcome of this game. I think it's going to be a great game. It's two teams on the rise late in the year. Iowa finished strong. They've got some potential if their season keeps going. But as we mentioned in yesterday's podcast, which Locked On Big Ten, you can go back and find it or go to our website, Talk Big Ten, number 10, talkbig10.com. We post everything there. Does the interim Buckeyes coach Jake Diebler get a shot at this job if Ohio State makes a run? He's completely turned the team around in just a month. And I'm sure Iowa's not looking forward to playing him. Diebler went 5-1 since taking over a team that was 4-7 in the Big Ten at the time, and they couldn't win on the road for like a year. So those 5 wins included a win over first place Purdue here down the stretch in February. And look, they've got a new incoming athletic director at Ross Bjork. He wants to make a big splash. That's, he's the new guy. He wants to make a splash. This is his first hire. He's all excited. And he stated that he wants an experienced head coach, wants to go through all the interview process and all that. Diebler doesn't check that box. But if he wins, I think you got to take a look at the guy. I absolutely do. Meanwhile, Hoosier fans want to know, Mike Woodson has been talking about Trey Galloway. Trey Galloway hurt his knee, came out in the first half of the Michigan State game, and he's like the glue that holds this whole team together. And he left that game in the first half. He was visibly limping, put compression socks on, compression pants, tried everything, tried stretching it out. He did say after the game, he gave a speech. It was senior day, and he's a senior, went up there, and he talked about how he'll be ready to go for the Big Ten tournament regarding his knee. And then he also announced that he'll be coming back for his 5th COVID year next year. Got a standing ovation. Everybody was very excited about it. Purdue's Zach Edey, in addition to being on the all Big Ten team and all defensive team, he also won his record 12th Big Ten Player of the Week award. They just keep piling up all these awards. Just this week alone, Edey and the Boilers were 2-0. He averaged 26.5 points per game, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2.5 blocks per game. Just an average day for Zach Edey and his 7'4" frame. And then the Boilers, of course, retired his number 15 jersey and hung it in the rafters at Mackey Arena immediately, right after the game. Career's not even over. Raptors named his jerseys retired. Hey, Locked On, the whole group has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's called Locked On Sports Today. Feel free to check that out as well. Top sports stories of the day. All of our podcasts just rotate every half hour out there. It's all in one place, 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Again, it's called Locked On Sports Today. Subscribe to that. After you subscribe here, subscribe there as well, and check that out. The first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, so coming up in a minute, we're going to have our power rankings. It's what we do here in the middle of the week. We're going to take a look at the men's basketball for the Big Ten, and we did not go chalk. I didn't just do the standings, and there's your power rankings. I moved some teams around a little bit. I'll tell you why and how we came to that conclusion throughout. So all that's coming up in just 1 minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. It's $150 if your bet wins. So bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams. They have quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, anything you can think of. It is right there. I got a couple tips. I always like to leave you some tips. First of all, the Raptors and the Pistons play tonight. I will take the Raptors to win that game. Take the over on the number for the Bulls and the Pacers. Always take the over on Pacers games. Nuggets over the Heat. And I will take the Cavs to beat the Pelicans, although I think that game will be close. So those are just my ideas for Wednesday night action around the NBA. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, it is time now to take a look at our power rankings for the Big Ten. The regular season is over. Probably do one more of these next week, and then we'll find something else to rank on Wednesdays. Usually isn't a problem. So we'll put them up here on full screen. If you're audio only, I'm going to have them on the screen. I'll describe them in detail. And well, obviously, at number 1, we've got the Purdue Boilermakers, as they won the regular season back-to-back years to be the #1 seed in the Big Ten tournament with the double bye. And I think no matter what happens, even if they have a hiccup in this first game, it doesn't matter. They're going to be a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Mark my words. That's a slam dunk. That's a slam dunk. A fantastic season for Matt Painter, Zach Edey, and company. So they're number 1 in our Big Ten power rankings. Illinois at number 2. Really don't know what to make, but I think they'll do pretty well in the Big Ten tournament. And obviously they'll get in the NCAA tournament as well. These two teams have been steady throughout. I think at one point there were 4 teams ranked in the Big Ten, but these are the only 2 nationally ranked teams in the Big Ten, Purdue and Illinois. That's why I think it's going to be a down year in the NCAA tournament. We're not going to be getting 8, 9 teams in the NCAA tournament. That's not happening this year following Selection Sunday. At number 3, I've got the Nebraska Cornhuskers. I think this is the most entertaining team in the Big Ten, period. I've loved watching them all year. They're fun. They're a lot better at home than they are on the road. So nothing but neutral sites moving forward. We'll see how they do. Nebraska, number 3. And, they and Northwestern, they tied. So the top 4 teams got double byes in the NCAA tournament or the Big Ten tournament. I got Northwestern number 4. Yeah, I know I told you I wasn't going chalk. I'm chalk so far. This is how the standings are. Northwestern, Boo Booey, Chris Collins. Great job. Northwestern going to the NCAA tournament again. They don't have a history of going every year, back-to-back year. But they're good. Boo Booey has a lot to do with that. All right, at number 5, I'm going to put the Iowa Hawkeyes. Before they lost their season finale to ranked Illinois, they had won 4 out of the last 5. I don't know if they're red hot. They're hot, though. They're hot right now at the right time. So good job to them. Iowa at number 5. I got number 6 at Indiana. Again, I don't know if they're red hot, but they were struggling most of the year. They've won 4 in a row. If you haven't had a chance to see Khalil Ware play basketball, you got to watch him. He's the big man for the Hoosiers. Kind of a slow start, transferred in. The word when he transferred in, he didn't play all out every play. Woodson's got him playing crazy. Like he's turning into an NBA player before our very eyes. Khalil Ware, check him out. And number 7, I've got the Ohio State Buckeyes. Again, Chris Holtmann, the firing, Jake Diebler. I mean, the word is, it looks like it's going to be Sean Miller out of Xavier. He's going to be the new head coach. Maybe Coach May down there in South Florida. Jake Diebler, does he even get a look if he makes a run in the Big Ten tournament? He's done a great job, 5-1, since he took over as interim head coach. And number 8, I've got the Wisconsin Badgers. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to put my hands in the air. I don't know what to make of this team. I mean, they were ranked the first half of the season, and you talk about a nosedive. I don't know what to expect out of Wisconsin. If they lose the first game of the Big Ten tournament, I'm not going to be surprised. At number 9, I got the Michigan State Spartans, and they need a win or 2 here. They need some wins. Otherwise, Tom Izzo's 25-year streak of making it into the NCAA tournament every year for 25 straight years, that's in jeopardy right here. They need to win. Minnesota is at number 10, rounding out our top 10 of our power rankings here in the Big Ten. Let's look at the best of the rest. I've got the Penn State Nittany Lions. Mike Rhodes, good job this year. I would look for better things for Penn State next year. I think they're trending in the right direction. They've got Michigan to open up the tournament. Maryland at number 12. I've told you before, Jameer Young is a one-man team. He did make the media all Big Ten team voted on by the media, not the coaches, but the media. Maryland's got Rutgers in the first game of the NCAA tournament. Rutgers here at 13. And, of course, Michigan in a tough year with Juwan Howard. Rounding it out at number 14. And, again, I'm hearing Juwan Howard may survive. I thought it was a foregone conclusion that he'd be gone at the end of the year. Maybe he still will be. But maybe he won't. So there you have it. Those are our power rankings from the Big Ten, rounding out the regular season. Love your comments on all of it. Many ways for you to interact with me with your comments. You can hit us. You see our scroll on the bottom, talkbig10number10.com. That's our website. You can hit me up on X, Twitter, at talkbig10number10, or the comments on YouTube. Been great. Love seeing those. Love seeing rivals go at it, too, in a fun way, of course. So you can check that out and be sure to subscribe. Thank you. You got us over 7,000 this week. We started with 1,200 back when we took over this channel in the summertime. 7,000. We're proud of that. Thank you. You're part of that. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead. Let's get the march to 8,000 going there. So subscribe and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app, and you'll get the latest episode of this Locked On Big Ten podcast as soon as it's available each and every day. Audio comes out, if you listen on audio only, about 4 a.m. Eastern, and the video comes out on YouTube at about 6 a.m. every day Eastern. All right, that'll do it. We're going to be in the midst of the Big Ten basketball tournament next time we talk. Got all that and more, keeping our eyes on the headlines and the stories of spring football. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. For Locked On Big Ten, talk to you next time. I'm Craig Shemon.